Do you ever wonder, like, if you're just very ideologically captured, and I'm also ideologically...
I wonder every day. I constantly go, okay, I check in. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Have I fallen down some sort of bizarre rabbit hole? And then I go like, hang on, no. Men are not women. Like, this is, like, I say this all the time. This is crazier than flat earther stuff, because even like, well, one, those people aren't changing legislation, but as crazy as it is to even still think the earth is flat, at least at one point in human history, humans didn't know what shape the earth was, but they knew the difference between male and female. It is the most like simple, obvious fact that we know. Like Richard Dawkins has said, it's the uniqueness of it. It's the one thing that is binary. Pretty much everything else exists on a spectrum. What is so unique is you can't change sex and there's two options.
Neil deGrasse Tyson used that argument the other way. Have you heard him talk about the astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah, I know who he is.
He just went bananas.
No, he's like... sometimes when you go like, why are really smart people involved in this? You can find out if there's someone in their family that's transing their child.
Interesting. I think also, I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson, I didn't even realize this, but he's had all sorts of allegations against him. And that he's had to, and this isn't me accusing him in case, again, I don't know the legal stuff, but he's talked about it publicly himself. I think 4 different women have come forward and accused Neil deGrasse Tyson. Then we have to sit there and listen to him to say stuff like, hey, a planet becomes a star at this point or that point, so there's nothing binary in the world, so men and women are also on a spectrum.
It's one of my actual theories, so it's like not to talk about Neil deGrasse Tyson specifically, because I don't know.
Legally
him.
not talking specifically about him, but metaphorically someone similar to him.
But just in general, like the Me Too movement was this global, like very grassroots movement of women that emerged very quickly, became very successful. And it was actually a movement about boundaries. It is no accident, in my opinion, that it just died and was replaced with gender identity ideology.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that there's a lot of really powerful men who don't give a shit about trans rights, but they really love the fact that women are now not even real. They can't have boundaries, or they're a bigot. And we can't even really talk about anything else because we're just having to focus on this. And I think that was really convenient for a lot of men. It's like, I think as well that this dawned on me recently that I actually was in a really unique position in creating a female-only digital space. This is something I never thought of. But the other day, did you see the footage of the woman, the cleaner, who was being chased by a man who claims to be a woman because she told him to get out of the woman's bathroom, and he was berating her down the hallway of a hostel.
Yes.
And she had to lock herself in a room to try and get away from him. And as I was watching it, I was like, that is exactly what happens in real life women-only spaces. We remove ourselves. We're petrified. We see a man, and either we're petrified and something happens, or we just quietly get out as quickly as possible. But in a digital space, I had the power to remove them. I was like, I could safely remove them. It was a complete flip of the usual power dynamic. And I think that this court case is the result of what happens when that power dynamic is flipped, because I think that we're just sort of seeing the reality of sexism play out.
I like what you say about boundaries and power dynamics. And I'm going to go back to Neil deGrasse Tyson. And that's because I haven't spoken really about him before. And I really think this is a bad, in my opinion, person. And I've never invited him on the show. Not that he didn't necessarily come on. But the boundaries issue that he has is not only with women. I think it's everyone in his life, because have you seen him be interviewed by like Joe Rogan and people like that? He just interrupts and interrupts. So frustratingly, he has no concept of boundaries. And I think, in my opinion, he really is quite a bully.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
And it's people having issues with boundaries. And I think most men, or I'd like to think most men, are quite happy with this idea. Like, okay, well, women feel a bit better over there. I don't really need to put myself in that position.
Oh, completely. Like, the reality is, if most men in the world didn't respect women and like respect our boundaries and treat women well, and like say like not rape and all of that kind of stuff, like society would be in decay. Like, obviously, most men are really good. It's like most people are actually really good.
Yes.
But female-only spaces exist because of the bad men. So the moment you've got a man trying to come into one, you're dealing with a guy that doesn't respect boundaries. Like, that's on a personal level with the Tickle v. Giggle case. Like, I've said no to this guy. It's as simple as that. I've said no.
Yeah.
Please respect that I have said no. I have said numerous times, you are welcome to believe whatever you want about yourself. I wish you well. Have a nice life. And under no circumstances does it make any difference in his life whether he is on this app or not. But it makes a lot of difference to women's lives if we have female-only spaces available to us.
What does he want to do in there? I just, what annoys me is like I used to live in Berlin, and Berlin's one of the sort of most hipster places, and you're going to get a lot of woke people there. And it's perfectly acceptable in Berlin. If I wanted to go into some of the clubs there, not that I ever actually did want to do that, but Kit Kat Club, Bergheim, is that? See, I don't even know the name. I think it is Bergheim. They wouldn't let me in because I don't look cool enough. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't have like leather nipples or something.
How come? I mean, there was this they call it like this celebrity Tinder. It's called Rare. It's like a exclusive dating app. It was launched in LA, like in Hollywood. I don't want to brag. I was on it for a bit. I matched with Matthew Perry.
Did you? Oh,
but I never checked it, and so I didn't realize until months later. And I was like, "Oh, Chandler Bing."
And you didn't reply.
No. I ghosted Chandler.
Goes to Chandler, and then wow.
But that is an app where they literally judge you based on like how basically attractive and valuable they deem you to be.
Yeah.
And
no one cares. No one's suing that.
No.
Tell you what, if they didn't let me on there, I mean, I've not been single for 10 years, but if I were, I would tomorrow try and sign up. And if they didn't, I would sue them. No, I wouldn't really.
No, but it's also like, in this whole process, the amount of times where I've had to justify female-only spaces, and women are having to do it all the time and bring up the most traumatic things that have ever happened to us to do it. But I'm like, we just want them. Like, that's a good enough reason for me. Obviously, in the court of law, it's not. Like, you actually have to go through, like, equality and safety and privacy and all of these legal things. And that's fine, because if the law is working properly, as it should, you need that. You need it's boundaries and everything, isn't it? And that's kind of how the law is supposed to work. But no one ever is asking anyone to justify OnlyFans. OnlyFans isn't like, they're not tearing that down. I wish OnlyFans didn't exist. I think it is horrible for society. I don't think it is great to offer young women the chance to make what is in reality probably for the most of them hardly any money by selling naked photos of themselves. I think it's just ridiculous. But I learned to coexist in a world where it exists. I'm not going to go and do anything to it. Why can't that happen for female-only spaces?
You exist in a society where not everything is exactly how you want it to be, without needing society to change around you. I think what a lot of these people get confused with is there is a difference when there are genuine civil rights issues, such as with gay people back in the day. Although now we even had that sort of cake issue here. I think that was an Ireland or in the UK, I'm not sure, where a baker was able to say, look, I don't want to make this. It's like you can't not serve a gay person cake, but you can say, I don't want to put something celebrating homosexuality on a cake.
Which I'm quite a free speech absolutist, so I'm kind of like, well, if they don't want to do that,
yeah, I feel that as well.
I do. And I just think like there are other bakeries to go to. Like it's the same thing with this. Well, I'm not a free speech issue in this case, obviously, but there are other apps to go to. Like there are like 13 or 14 apps exclusively for trans and also the LGBTQI plus community on the App Store and Google Play. Plus there's the furry social network.
I suppose
like there's lots of options here.
If there was a world where like almost none of the bakeries or the bakers would put the gay cake, then maybe that's where you need to have like sort of a civil rights issue.
Or you go, what an opportunity. Let's create a bakery that does.
I know loads of anti-Semitic people. My family's Jewish. And my attitude now towards them is just like, be anti-Semitic. You do your thing. As long as it doesn't get to a point, that's the thing, where like we're getting rounded up and put in trains. I just think like, good, you've got a right to be anti-Semitic if you want. Good luck to you. I mean, not public. You're not supposed to say anything violent or threatening.
But it's like people, people could hate me. They have a right to hate me.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about it. For whatever reason it is, you don't think I should have rights. You don't like me. You don't want me to have any success, anything like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Like it's just, we do all live in this colorful world together. And sometimes we go to like little refuges where it's just without tribe in a way that we're humans, we're tribal. Like it is nice. Like, you know, lesbians do like to hang out just with lesbians occasionally. Men like to hang out just with men, like even just like straight men. Like a night with the guys, it's different. When you've got a group of guys sitting there, what you guys talk about is different than if one woman was to sit at that table with you.
you know what is actually a difficult one, because there was a theatre night in London recently that I don't know if it was black people only or no whites allowed, and I think that's the difference. If it was black people only, maybe that's okay.
Race, in lots of different ways, race is different to biological sex, because the necessity of female-only spaces on the basis of sex, it does come down to safety, dignity, and privacy. That is like the legal threshold or definitions or whatever. And so they're really real reasons. And then then go, okay, like, so if you were to have, say, like a black-only thing, is that okay? Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. As I said, I'm like I just think fine. But then if you would then have a white-only thing, this is how I'll explain it. Okay. For male-only spaces, don't need as much protection in law because women self-exclude from them. So you can create a male-only gym, for example, quite easily, because women will just sort of see this like really industrial place with giant men, heavy metal music, like this just pretty scary. And we go, I'm not going in there.
In general, not all women.
For the most, but you can pretty surely create that into a male-only space, right?
I used to play five-a-side football, and it wasn't a men-only play, but it was men, and women did often come.
Oh, yeah, but that's different. I'm just saying, but it is possible to create a place that's so intimidating that women will not go near it.
I'll just say they made it rubbish, though, because the women were not very good. In general, one or two were, but sorry.
Men and women are different in sport, too.
Yeah.
But then, so with a female-only space, the moment you create one, it's men want to come in. So that's why, like, even female-only gyms have always had to have, pretty strict, like, gatekeeping on them as well. Lesbian bars had to have a lot. Like, they used to always have to giant male bouncers out the front to keep the men away. And so I think in terms of the race stuff, I think it's similar that, like, some races need the protection and then some other ones don't need the protection.
There's also like communities. It's such a complicated one, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's really
hard. But my thing is, I think about this a lot because you obviously don't want to go into a world of horrible segregation that we historically had. But I don't think female-only spaces have anything to do with that. Like, female-only spaces have emerged from history as something that is really, really positive. Obviously, you can have places like Saudi Arabia, with what they were locking women away and not allowing them into society. That's not a female-only space issue. That is a much bigger issue than female-only spaces. They still do need female-only bathrooms in those communities. We get, like, sort of, us women who are defending female-only spaces, quite often we get accused of saying that, we want like apartheid and segregation and whatnot. And it's like, that is such an insult to anyone who's ever lived or is still living in apartheid situations.
Oh, yeah.
We're not forcing women to go into female-only spaces. We're saying we want you to have the option to be able to go into female-only spaces. And I think that goes for everything. So if you want to have something there that's specifically by race or something specifically by sex or sexuality, they're options. That is very different to a forced world.
Yeah. I think every kind of freedom comes down to freedom to and freedom from.
Yeah.
And what you've created gives women freedom from men impinging upon their freedom.
Yeah.
And what it does is it takes away men's freedom to enter that space. But just like, I've got to go in there now. I've got to put myself in every... Did you see how Pink News reported about Giggle? They were saying that the AI had failed to recognize trans women as if it wasn't by design.
No, the funniest thing about that, they actually did do an email question answer with me, and I hadn't said trans woman. I had said male. They said trans
and they've
women.
sort of said, well, I'm looking, and it's, you say male, but it's failed to recognize these trans women who are clearly female.
No, I'm going, they're male. You went male, trans woman. No, they blocked me because when I corrected them, when that article came out, I responded and just said, I put from my email, I put my actual answer. I said, I just said it doesn't allow males in. Because it's not like we allow males who don't have a gender identity. It's not like we allow males we like in there. Like, my dad cannot use the app for the exact same reason Roxy Tickle can't use the app. They're male. It's not a character assessment. It's just you're male. It's for females. Like, there are other apps you can use.
They were like, and Jenny is a trans woman who wasn't allowed in. It's so weird because obviously...
But they never talk about the trans men.
Well, no.
See, they're going after me for transphobia, but they never mention the trans men.
It's
females with
it's
a trans
the new
identity,
kind of
whatever.
transphobia. But like the old transphobia was literally having a problem with anybody who identifies as trans, which you've proven by having trans men or whatever, or women with trans issues into the app.
Yeah.
This is, you don't believe that trans women literally are women, and that's transphobia by the modern definition.
The definition of transphobia at this point is you don't adhere to gender ideology and you're not accepting men as women. They do not care about the women who are part of this movement. I can prove it. So in our case, for example, it's sex versus gender identity. Obviously, we're fighting for sex-based rights. Females with a trans identity also rely on their sex-based rights. It's how they play sport. Because as we were just saying before, men and women are different in sport. Females need our own sports categories. We cannot compete with the men 99.9% of the time.
Terrible sports.
One day you're going to have an actual
athletes.
athlete sitting here. I hope she just goes, boom.
I remember I did play, there was like, honestly, woman after woman came to the five-a-side and ruined the game because it made it almost 5 against 4.
No, totally, because you've got to change how you play as well because you don't want to break her or something. Yeah.
But then once one woman came who was like ridiculously good, and I was like on the floor trying to catch her, and then I was like, right, am I going easy on her? So I started going harder, and she was just escaping me every time, and I never played again.
Awesome. But basically, women rely on their sex-based rights to be able to play sport.
Sure.
Most females that have fallen into this trans. I don't want to say trans identity. I hate using this language at this point, but I'm like,
it's people just with dysphoria, isn't it?
I don't think they're people that they're vulnerable people in a cult is what they are, most of them, especially the social contagion amongst females. Like, it's just, I can't use the language. I can't